Sometimes in life, you find yourself standing in places where there is no road, no map, no signpost, just a wall in front of you and fear behind you. But I came to tell somebody today, that's exactly where God does his best work. He doesn't need an open door. He'll make one. He doesn't need a bridge. He'll carve a path straight through the waters. God specializes in showing up in the wilderness, in the dry places, in the dead ends you thought would be your grave. And when he shows up, what was impossible becomes inevitable. My topic today is God makes a path in places you least expect. Sometimes in life, you find yourself standing in places you never planned to be. Places that don't look like promise. Places that don't look like purpose. Places that don't look like anything you prayed for. In fact, they look like the complete opposite of what you were believing God to do. Have you ever been there? Have you ever had God speak something to your spirit? Give you a vision of where he's taking you, only to find yourself standing in a wilderness with no clear way forward. You thought God would open a door, but all you see is a wall. You thought God would send a bridge, but all you see is a river with no way across. You thought God would line things up neatly, but now everything feels scattered, disorganized, out of control. And you're standing there wondering, Lord, where do I go from here? But I came to tell somebody this morning, that is exactly where God does his best work. God does not wait until the path is clear to start moving. He does not wait until the resources line up to release his blessing. He does not wait until you have it all figured out to start leading you forward. In fact, God loves to work in places where there is no path, because when he brings you through, you'll know it wasn't your wisdom. It wasn't your strength. It wasn't your connections. It wasn't your RA Some. You'll know that if it had not been for the Lord on your side, you would never have made it out. I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but somebody walked in here carrying the weight of uncertainty. You're standing at a crossroads where every direction looks blocked. You're wondering how God could possibly bring his promise to pass with what you see around you. You're staring at an empty bank account, a broken relationship, a closed door, a doctor's report that sounds like the end. But I want you to lean in and hear me clearly. God makes a path in places you least expect. See, you thought he'd take you the easy way. You thought he'd lead you down the smooth road, the well-lit road, the road that everybody travels. But sometimes God will intentionally lead you to the Red Sea, with Pharaoh's army pressing behind you, because he wants to show you that he is the God who opens up waters and makes a highway right through the deep. He'll let you stand in front of the wall of Jericho, so that when the wall falls down, you'll know it wasn't your hammer that did it. It was his power. He'll let you wander in a wilderness, just long enough for you to discover that man doesn't live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Some of you are panicking right now because you can't see the way. You're losing sleep because you think it's your job to figure it all out. But let me remind you, God sees the end from the beginning. He already mapped out your tomorrow before you were even born. He already made provision for the thing you're worried about. You don't have to see the way when you know the one who is the way. You don't have to open every door when you serve the one who is the door. And you don't have to light up every dark road when you're walking with the one who is the light of the world. Oh, I feel this stirring in my spirit. Somebody is about to see God do something unusual, something uncommon, something that doesn't make sense to your logic. He's not going to take you down the main road where everybody else is walking. He's not going to use the connections you thought he would use. He's not going to bless you through the person you thought would help you. In fact, he's going to do it in a way that nobody can take credit for. You're about to see him make a path in a desert, open a door in a prison, create a stream in a dry place, because that's how God reveals his glory. So stop waiting for everything to look perfect before you believe. Stop waiting for the road to appear before you start walking. Sometimes God doesn't show you the whole road. He gives you just enough light for the next step. And as you move forward, step by step, he makes the crooked places straight and the rough places smooth. That's why the psalmist said, "Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path." Not a floodlight for the whole journey, just a lamp for your next step. Look back over your life for a moment. Hasn't he always made a way? Think about the times you didn't know how you were going to pay that bill, but somehow the provision came. Think about the times you were heartbroken and thought you'd never get through it. But here you are, still standing. Think about the times you made mistakes that should have destroyed you. But grace stepped in and gave you another chance. If he did it before, he can do it again. If he made a path when you were lost before, he can make a path right now. I dare you to lift up your eyes in faith and start expecting God to move in the very place you least expect. Stop complaining about where you are and start praising him for where he's taking you. Stop crying over the door that closed and start preparing for the door he's about to open. Sometimes he shuts down your plan because his plan is so much greater. Sometimes he blocks your way because he's about to part a sea. Sometimes he lets it get dark because he's about to show you that he is the light. So today, I want you to get ready for God to surprise you. Get ready for him to do something that will blow your mind. Get ready to testify. I didn't see any way, but God made a way. That's why my topic for this message is, God makes a path in places you least expect. He makes a way in the wilderness. He brings rivers out of dry ground. He turns graves into gardens, seas into highways, bones into armies. And he's about to do it for you, right where you are. Life has a way of taking us into places we never imagined. You make your plans. You chart your course. You think you know where you're going. And then suddenly, you end up somewhere completely different. It's not just unexpected. It feels unfamiliar, uncomfortable, and even unfair. You look around and wonder, how did I get here? Maybe you thought by now you'd have everything figured out, your career settled, your family strong, your finances stable. But instead, you find yourself in a season where nothing seems clear, where every door you try is locked tight, where every path you take seems to lead to a dead end. Sometimes you end up in places that don't look anything like what God promised you. Have you ever felt like that? Like you're standing in the middle of nowhere, with no signs pointing you forward, no light to guide your next step. You prayed, you believed, you tried to do everything right, and still life has brought you here. You thought God would take you down an easy road, but instead you're standing in front of obstacles you can't move and challenges you don't understand. But here's the good news. God does his greatest work in the places where you least expect him. He doesn't need an open door to move. He doesn't need a paved highway to lead you forward. He doesn't need conditions to be perfect to fulfill His promise in your life. In fact, He often chooses to show His power in the very moments where you have no power at all, so that when He brings you through, you will know without a doubt that it was Him. Think about it. Throughout Scripture, God rarely took anyone down the easy road. He led Moses and the Israelites right to the edge of the Red Sea, with Pharaoh's army closing in behind them. Why? Because He wanted them to know that He is the God who can make a path where there is no path. He wanted them to see that His power is not limited by geography, circumstance, or human strength. He didn't need a bridge. He parted the waters. He didn't need them to figure it out. He made a way. Some of you are standing at your own Red Sea right now. You're pressed between your problem and your promise. You can't go back to where you came from, but you can't see how to go forward either. You're looking around for help, but nothing makes sense. You've tried to fix it on your own, but every solution falls short. I want you to hear me clearly. The place where you feel stuck is the place where God is about to show Himself strong. The very ground that feels like a dead end is about to become the doorway to your destiny. Sometimes we think we need everything lined up neatly before God can move. We think we need more money, more connections, more experience, more resources. But God loves to work in places where the odds are against you. He specializes in turning impossibilities into testimonies. He delights in taking what looks hopeless and breathing life into it. So if you feel like you've run out of options, take heart. That's when God is getting ready to step in. I know it's hard. I know it feels lonely standing in that uncertain place. But what if the place you're in right now isn't meant to destroy you? It's meant to reveal God to you. What if the wilderness you're walking through is really the training ground for your next season? What if the delay you're experiencing isn't rejection, but redirection? What if God is closing doors you wanted open because He's leading you to something better than you could imagine? You see, we serve a God who knows how to make a way in the desert, a river in the wasteland, a door in the middle of a wall. And He doesn't just make a way for you to survive. He makes a way for you to thrive. When He leads you through, you won't just come out barely hanging on. You'll come out stronger, wiser, and more convinced of His power than ever before. Look back over your own life for a moment. Hasn't He always made a way? Think about the situations you thought would break you, yet somehow you're still standing. Think about the nights you cried, not knowing how you'd get through, yet God carried you. Think about the mistakes you made that should have ruined everything, yet grace covered you. If He's been faithful before, why would He stop now? If He made a path for you back then, He can make a path for you again. I don't know what's standing in front of you today. It might be a financial challenge. It might be a health issue. It might be a relationship that feels like it's falling apart. It might be a dream that looks like it's dying. Whatever it is, don't give up. Don't assume that just because you can't see a way, there isn't one. God can move in ways you've never seen. He can open doors you didn't even know existed. He can use people you never thought would help you. He can do more in a moment than you could do in a lifetime. So as you sit here listening, I want you to lift your expectations. Stop looking for God to do it the way you planned, and start trusting Him to do it His way. His way may not make sense, but it's always perfect. His timing may feel late to you, but it's always right on schedule. His path may not be visible right now, but it's there. And He's going to reveal it at just the right moment. That's why I've come to speak this word over you today. God makes a path in places you least expect. He makes a way in the wilderness. He opens doors that no man can shut. He brings hope to hopeless situations and light into the darkest nights. And if you hold on, if you keep walking by faith, you're about to see Him move in your life in a way that leaves no doubt it was His hand guiding you all along. Sometimes, life will take you through seasons you never anticipated. You thought by now the path would be clear. You thought by now you'd know exactly what God was doing. But instead you find yourself standing at a crossroads, or worse, at what feels like a dead end. And you start asking yourself, did I miss something? Did I take a wrong turn? Did I misunderstand what God told me? The truth is, it's not always that you miss God. Sometimes it's that God's way simply doesn't look like your way. He told you He would lead you, but He didn't say He would lead you down a road that made sense to you. He told you He would bless you, but He didn't say He would do it using the people you expected Him to use. He told you He would open doors, but He didn't promise those doors would be the ones you had your eyes on. This is where faith gets real. Faith isn't just believing God when everything lines up neatly. Faith isn't just shouting hallelujah when you can see how the story ends. Faith is standing still when the road disappears. Faith is holding on when the bridge collapses. Faith is trusting God in the fog when you can barely see the next step in front of you. Have you ever been there, where every logical option is exhausted, and you feel like you're surrounded, where every voice around you is telling you it's over, but something deep inside you refuses to let go of hope? That's the moment when God loves to step in. That's the moment when He says, "Now you'll see me work." See, God doesn't just move in expected places. He doesn't just bless you through familiar channels. He doesn't just guide you along well-paved highways. In fact, He often chooses the most unlikely moments, the most uncomfortable seasons, and the most unusual places to reveal His power. Why? Because when He makes a path in a place you least expect, no one else can take credit for it. You can't say it was your strategy, your connections, your talent. You'll have to say, if it had not been for the Lord on my side, I wouldn't be here right now. Look at the pattern of Scripture. God took Joseph from a pit to a palace by way of a prison. That wasn't a route Joseph would have picked. God led Israel to freedom by walking them straight into the Red Sea. That wasn't a route Moses would have picked. God took Gideon into battle with only 300 men instead of thousands. That wasn't a strategy Gideon would have picked. Over and over again, we see God making paths in places no one saw coming. Maybe right now you're standing at your own Red Sea. You can't go back to Egypt. That season is over. But you can't see how to move forward either. You've prayed, you've tried, you've planned, but nothing seems to work. Let me speak this over you. God already has a way prepared that you cannot see yet. Just because the path isn't visible doesn't mean it isn't there. Just because it doesn't make sense to you doesn't mean it doesn't make sense to Him. Sometimes God will deliberately let you run out of options. Not because He wants to harm you, but because He wants to prove to you that He is the option. He is the way. He is the door. He is the source. When He makes the way, it won't be something you figured out. It will be something you couldn't have predicted, even if you tried. Think about your own life for a second. How many times has God surprised you? How many times has He opened a door you didn't even knock on? How many times did He provide in a way you never expected? If He's done it before, He can do it again. And if He can make a path through the sea, He can make a path through whatever you're facing right now. The mistake we often make is thinking we need to understand the whole journey before we take the next step. But God doesn't work like that. He gives you just enough light for today, just enough strength for this moment, just enough grace for this hour. That's why His word says, "Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path." Not a spotlight showing the entire road, just a lamp to keep you moving forward step by step. And as you take each step, God starts clearing the way. As you walk in obedience, even when you don't understand, He starts arranging things in your favor. As you keep trusting Him, He starts opening doors no man can shut. By the time you look back, you realize the path was there all along. You just couldn't see it until you started walking. Some of you need to hear this today. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions to move forward. Stop waiting until everything looks certain to trust God. Stop holding back your praise until you see the miracle with your eyes. God is already at work in places you can't see. He's already setting up the right people, the right opportunities, the right timing. And when it happens, it won't just meet your expectation. It will exceed it. So lift up your head, dry your tears, strengthen your heart. The God who makes rivers flow in deserts, the God who makes walls fall with a shout, the God who brings beauty out of ashes. That same God is making a path for you right now. You don't have to see it to believe it. You don't have to understand it to walk in it. You just have to trust that when God says He will make a way, He will make a way. That's why the word I came to declare over you today is this: God makes a path in places you least expect. He does it to show you His power. He does it to deepen your faith. He does it so that when you come out of this season, you'll know, not just in your head, but deep down in your spirit, that He is who He says He is. And when you walk through that unexpected path, you won't come out the same. You'll come out stronger. You'll come out wiser. You'll come out giving Him glory, because you'll know you didn't make it on your own. He carried you every step of the way. Life has a way of surprising you. You make your plans, you draw your maps, you think you've got it figured out. You say to yourself, by this age, I'll be here. By this year, I'll have that. By this point, I'll be walking in everything I dreamed of. But then life happens. Circumstances shift. The doors you thought would open stay shut. The people you thought would help you walk away. The road you thought would be smooth suddenly breaks off into rough terrain. And now you're standing there, looking around, asking, God, where is the way? Where is the path you promised me? You didn't expect to be single this long. You didn't expect to be struggling this hard. You didn't expect to be starting over at this stage of your life. You didn't expect to be fighting battles you thought would be over by now. Have you ever been there? In that place where nothing matches what you prayed for? Where the scene in front of you doesn't look anything like the vision God showed you? But I came to remind you of something. God doesn't need to take the road you expected. He doesn't need to use the people you counted on. He doesn't need permission from your circumstances to bless you. In fact, He does His greatest work in the places where there seems to be no way. He specializes in showing up in the wilderness, in the dry places, in the situations that look impossible. Think about it. When Israel came out of Egypt, God led them straight to the Red Sea. There was no bridge, no ferry, no boat, just water in front of them and an army behind them. And in that moment, God didn't say, "Turn around and go back." He didn't say, "Wait for someone to come help you." He said, "Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." And then He made a path, not through the mountains, not around the water, but right through it. That's what I'm talking about today. God makes a path in places you least expect. And when He does it, no one else can take credit. You can't say it was your strategy. You can't say it was your skill. You can't say it was your connections. You'll have to say, "If it had not been for the Lord on my side, I wouldn't be here today." Some of you are looking at your own Red Sea right now. You feel trapped. You can't go back, but you can't see how to go forward either. And you're wondering, "Lord, what are you doing?" But let me tell you, just because you can't see the path doesn't mean God hasn't already prepared it. Just because it's hidden to you doesn't mean it's hidden to Him. He sees the end from the beginning. Before you even got to this point, He already had a plan. Sometimes God lets you get to the place where human options run out, so you'll stop depending on human options. He'll let you get to the end of your resources, so you'll discover His resources. He'll let you reach the end of your strength, so you can learn to lean on His strength. He'll let you come to the end of your understanding, so you'll trust His wisdom instead of your own. Look back for a moment. Hasn't He done it before? Think about the times you didn't know how you were going to make it, but somehow you did. Think about the times you thought it was over, but God turned it around. Think about the doors He opened that you didn't even knock on, the opportunities that came out of nowhere, the help that showed up when you least expected it. If He's been faithful before, why would He stop now? This is why you can't panic when you can't see the way. This is why you can't quit just because the road disappears. This is why you can't give up when the path is unclear. Because the same God who parted the sea for Israel, the same God who walked into the fiery furnace with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the same God who opened the prison doors for Paul and Silas, that same God is working in your life right now. You may not see it yet. It may not look like anything's happening. But trust me, while you're worrying, He's working. While you're trying to figure it out, He's already worked it out. While you're asking how, He's already answered when. You just haven't seen it manifest yet. And when God makes the way, it won't just be enough to get you by. It will be more than enough to show you His glory. When Israel walked through the Red Sea, they didn't come out wet and barely surviving. They came out dry, victorious, and watching their enemies defeated behind them. That's what God does. He doesn't just make a path for you to escape. He makes a path for you to triumph. So today, I want to stir your faith. Lift up your eyes. Wipe your tears. Shake off your fear. Stop rehearsing all the reasons it won't work. Start believing the one who can do the impossible. Start expecting God to show up in unexpected ways. Start declaring, even before you see it, "Lord, I believe you're making a way for me right now. Because here's the truth. He's opening doors no one can shut. He's lining up resources you didn't know you needed. He's preparing people you haven't even met yet. He's rearranging circumstances so that at just the right moment, the path you couldn't see will suddenly appear. And when it does, you'll know it was God. That's why I'm preaching this today. God makes a path in places you least expect. He makes a way in the wilderness. He carves rivers in the desert. He brings life out of dry ground. He brings hope where there was only despair. And He's about to do it again. For you, for your family, for your situation, for your calling. When He's done, you won't just thank Him for the destination. You'll thank Him for the journey. Because it was in the place where you couldn't see the way that you learned to trust Him. It was in the place where you had no options that you discovered He is your only option. And that's the kind of faith that can't be shaken. Have you ever noticed how God rarely takes the route you expect Him to take? You map out your life like you're following GPS. By this year, I'll arrive at this point. By that year, I'll accomplish that goal. And then suddenly you hit a detour. You thought it would be a straight highway, but instead you're on a back road you've never traveled before. The landmarks don't match your plan. The turns don't make sense. And now you're wondering, Lord, where is the road you promised me? You thought it would be simple. You thought the doors would open quickly. You thought you'd walk from promise to fulfillment without opposition. But instead you've been delayed. You've been detoured. You've been disappointed. And if you're honest, there are moments you've wondered, did I miss God? Did I do something wrong? Did I take a wrong turn? But hear me clearly. Just because the path doesn't look familiar doesn't mean you're lost. Just because you didn't expect this season doesn't mean God isn't leading you. Sometimes God takes you the long way around, not to hurt you, but to prepare you. Sometimes He takes you through unfamiliar territory because He wants to show you something about Himself you would never learn on an easy road. All through the Bible, God makes paths where there are no paths. When Hagar was cast into the wilderness with her son, no map, no direction, no water, God opened her eyes to a well that was right there. When Joshua led Israel into the promised land, the Jordan River stood in their way. But as soon as the priests stepped into the water, God made the river stand still and carved a dry path through. When Elijah was hiding in the desert, no food, no help, God sent ravens to feed him. Over and over again, God shows up in the places we least expect Him. And maybe that's where you are today. Maybe you're looking at your life and thinking, this is not what I imagined. This is not how I thought God would do it. You expected Him to bless you through certain people, but they walked away. You expected Him to open certain doors, but they slammed shut. You expected Him to move by a certain time, but His timing seems different than yours. Let me encourage you. God is not limited to your expectations. He doesn't need to use the people you thought He would use. He doesn't need to open the door you thought He would open. He doesn't even need the conditions to be favorable. In fact, He often waits until the conditions look impossible, so that when He makes a way, you'll know it was nobody but Him. Look at the children of Israel. God could have taken them around the Red Sea. He could have led them on a route that avoided trouble altogether. But He deliberately led them to a place where there was no way forward, because he was about to reveal himself as the God who parts waters. He was about to show them that he doesn't just use roads, he makes them. Sometimes God lets you get to a dead end just so he can prove he is the way. Sometimes he lets you face a battle you can't win just so you'll learn he is your victory. Sometimes he lets you run out of options just so you'll see he is your source. You thought you needed more money, but what you really needed was more faith. You thought you needed more connections, but what you really needed was more of him. I feel this for somebody. Stop worrying about how God's going to do it. Stop trying to figure out every step of the process. Stop assuming that because you don't see the path. There is no path. God is not scrambling to make up a plan for your life. He already had one before you were born. He sees the end from the beginning. Before you got into this situation, he already had a way out prepared. Think about your own history. How many times has God surprised you? How many times has he opened doors you didn't even know existed? How many times has he provided in ways you couldn't have imagined? If he's done it before, he can do it again. And if he did it for Moses, for Hagar, for Joshua, for Elijah, for countless others, he will do it for you. That's why you can't give up in this season. You can't stop moving just because you can't see where to place your foot next. His word says it's a lamp to your feet, not a floodlight for your future, meaning he gives you just enough for the next step. And as you keep stepping, he keeps clearing the way. As you walk in obedience, he lines up provision. As you keep trusting him, he shifts things behind the scenes. And by the time you look back, you'll see that the path was there all along. He was just revealing it one step at a time. So don't panic. Don't fear the unknown. Don't let discouragement take root just because the path isn't visible yet. God is working, even when you can't see him working. He's setting up divine appointments. He's rearranging circumstances. He's preparing resources. And at just the right time, he will make the way clear. And here's the beautiful thing. When God makes a way, it's not just barely enough to get you through. It's not a halfway solution. When Israel crossed the Red Sea, they didn't come out dripping wet and barely surviving. They came out dry, victorious, with their enemies defeated behind them. When God opens a path, it's not just about escape. It's about victory. It's about walking out stronger, wiser, and with a testimony that will encourage others. So lift up your head. Strengthen your faith. Stop expecting God to move in the obvious places and start looking for him to move in the unexpected ones. He's about to carve a way forward that no man can block, no enemy can stop, and no circumstance can hinder. That's the word I came to speak into your life today. God makes a path in places you least expect. He makes streams in the desert. He brings life out of dry ground. He turns dead ends into doorways and obstacles into opportunities. And when you come out on the other side, you won't just thank him for getting you through. You'll thank him for showing you who he is in the process, because it's in the wilderness that you discover he's your water. It's in the storm that you discover he's your shelter. It's in the dark that you discover he's your light. And when you know him like that, there's nothing you can't face. You've heard me say it all through this message. God doesn't need a road to lead you where he's taking you. He is the road. He doesn't need a door to open for you. He is the door. He doesn't need light to guide you. He is the light. And when you understand that, you stop panicking when life gets dark. You stop running when the road disappears. You stop doubting when you can't see the way forward. Because you know, when there is no way, He makes a way. When there is no path, He carves one. When there is no hope, He is your hope. When everyone else says it's over, He says, I'm just getting started. Look back over your life. Hasn't He always done it? Hasn't He made a way time after time? Hasn't He brought you through storms that should have sunk you? Hasn't He opened doors no man could shut? If He did it before, He will do it again. Somebody listening to me right now is standing at your own Red Sea. You're pressed between a problem and a promise. You don't know which way to turn. But hear me clearly. Don't give up, don't go back, and don't lose heart. God is about to show you that He is still the way maker. He is still the miracle worker. He is still the God who opens up seas, who tears down walls, who moves mountains, who makes crooked places straight. You may not see it yet, but He's already working it out. You may not understand it yet, but He's already ordered your steps. And when He reveals the path, you won't just walk through. You'll walk out with a testimony. You'll walk out knowing you didn't make it by your own power, but by His power. You'll walk out saying, if it had not been for the Lord on my side, where would I be? So as you leave this place, lift up your head, straighten your shoulders, walk like you believe that your God is able, because He's not finished with you. The best part of your story hasn't even been written yet. And when you come through this season, people are going to look at your life and say, how did you get here? And you'll tell them, God made a path in a place I least expected. So keep walking, keep trusting, keep believing. Your Red Sea is about to part. Your desert is about to bloom. Your midnight is about to turn into morning. Because the same God who made a way then is making a way right now. Can I get somebody to shout, He's making a way?